Hi, I'm Susan Gainen. I'm a whimsical wildlife documentarian. And what that means is that I'm very lucky to live on a path and flyway frequented by whimsical creatures. They come to my studio, they sit for portraits, they tell stories, and they eat my snacks. Fortunately, I have a cat, a wonderful cat named Max, who is my model, muse, and snacks manager. And he takes care of all of these creatures, feeding them their favorite flavor foods, so that when I come down for breakfast, they've already had their breakfast, and I can get ready to paint and to work with these creatures. I want to introduce you to Robert the tap dancing rooster. He was the first of all of these creatures to come to my studio. Robert had been a regular rooster in a regular chicken coop. He had been doing what roosters do. And then one day he saw someone tap dancing on a YouTube video, and he was entranced. He got so excited. He said, I want to do that. And so he got more YouTube videos, and he got things from the library and watched tap dancing and watched Gene Kelly and watched Fred Astaire. And he learned to tap dance, and he started to tap every single day. First he tapped for an hour, then for 2 hours, then for 3 hours, then 4 hours with a break, and then pretty soon he was tapping until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then when he had to get up at dawn, he was to crow, because that was his job after all. He was very tired. And he did that for a couple of weeks, and finally he said to the hens, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to crow at dawn. And they looked at him, and they looked at one another. And of course, you know that the hens, who are very kindly, of course, had been bothered by all this tap dancing till the middle of the night. And they took a vote, because hens believe in democracy. They took a vote, and they said, and they decided that Robert needed to go. Robert, they said, you've got to go. So they booted him out of the hen house, because crowing at dawn was the only job he had left, and he had to go. So he came to me for a portrait and for career counseling. I was a career counselor for many years. And we talked together, Robert and I. He said, I want to go to New York. I want to be a tap dancing rooster on Broadway. And I looked at him and I said, you really want to go to New York? Yes, he said, I really want to go to New York. Okay. So we did a portrait, and you can see the portrait, but the thing that you're looking at on the screen now is Robert tap dancing in the mirror, because you know tap dancers have to practice, and they have to look in the mirror to see that their form is correct. Anyway, Robert's on his way. He's in New York now. He auditions all the time. But of course he has to earn a living, and like so many of aspiring actors and dancers and artists, he is waiting tables. But he is, although he's not yet the first tap dancing rooster on Broadway, he is the first roller skating rooster waiter. He works in a restaurant just off Times Square. It's a steakhouse. Absolutely no poultry is served there. And that's Robert. And he comes back occasionally, but that's Robert's story. I'd like to introduce you to the competitive frog teams. Of the more than 4,800 species of frogs worldwide, there has been no attention paid to the suborder Competrichia and its families of competitive frog teams. Herpetologists are the ones who study frogs, and they missed the boat on this one completely. This scandalous void will be filled during the next few years by researchers from the Small Friends Research Institute, which sponsors my research and my art in whimsical creatures. The Small Friends Research Institute did identify 4 of the frog teams in 2011. They are the line dance team, the skydiving team, the square dance team, and the synchronized swim teams. Here are their stories. The line dance team benefits from frogs' special aptitude for moving in concert with one another. Their movements, up and down and backward and forward, they do flips, double and triple, and they incorporate ice skaters' movements, the jumps, axel and the salchow and the loop. They have changed the grammar of line dance altogether. The most honest of human line dancers readily admit that they are green with envy when they watch the Frogs line dance team. The skydiving team competes against other amphibians and flying squirrels in 3 World Tiny Shoot Association competitions. The first is formation. That's where teams compete against the clock in geometric freefall formations. The second is free flying. These are 3-member teams who fall together in choreographed formations. And in number 3 is freestyle. And it's freestyle fall and accurate landing, which includes free fall loops and turns, landing on a target the size of a dime. Who wins, you ask? And that's a good question. The frogs and the squirrels split the honors in formation skydiving. The squirrels are the longtime champs of free flying, and the frogs always sweep the freestyle fall and accurate landing. The frogs have racks of tiny medals, ribbons, and trophies to show for all of their hard work. The square dance team, I remember doing square dancing when I was in elementary school, and it was a lot of fun. Well, the frogs have a lot of fun doing square dance too. They compete throughout the western United States. They are well known for their intricate footwork and their interpretation of some of the classic calls, including Spin the Top and Ferris Wheel. They have dazzled other dancers for decades. Young frogs study their work through slow motion videos on YouFrog. The synchronized swim team, finally. Some might argue that this team enjoys a unique competitive advantage because the sport is really a hybrid of swimming, dancing, and gymnastics, activities that the frogs are all good at. They have embraced W.H. Auden's instruction, he said, "You owe it to us all to get on with what you're good at." And they use their natural propulsion, their natural techniques with twists, egg beaters, and other synchronized swim movements. Their marks for artistic impression are always outstanding. I'd like to introduce you to 2 birds you've probably never heard of. The Great American Rhea bird and Celebration Rhea. I had never heard of a Rhea bird until my cousin, who's named Rhea, told me about them a couple of years ago. She said that there were 2 of them, and she was right at the time. They are endangered. They live in South America. The Great American Rhea birds, and there are 3-toed, flightless, endangered natives of South America. Their feathers are often used for feather dusters, and in the 20s, they were often sought out for feathers for hats. There are 2 species. The larger one is the Great American Rhea bird, and the smaller one is the lesser Darwinian Rhea bird. They're about 4 feet tall. They live at 12,000 feet in a South American country which shall remain nameless. However, to quote one of my favorite lines from Star Wars, there is another. The Celebration Rhea bird lives in New Orleans. She is, unlike her cousins from South America, she is very brave, she's very forward, and she's very tall, and she's very, very beautiful. She lives in New Orleans. She and her family march in parades all the time because why not? It's New Orleans. She has a favorite drink, in addition to a regular diet of plants and fruits and seeds and insects and lizards and small birds and small game. She has a favorite drink. It's a multicolored liqueur called Celebration, and it's made of the same colors as she is, except they're in horizontal layers. It is a very, very, very strong alcoholic drink. While it is a very important part of her diet, it's fast becoming a favorite of humans in New Orleans, where the hurricane drink is a cliche. Celebration is a very, very, very good citizen. She has limited the Celebration drink to just a few bars, and she's carefully trained the bartenders to ask for your keys after you've had one of these drinks. She is, as I said, a very good citizen. I first saw the great leafy bunny of New Hampshire out of the corner of my eye. I was driving from Manchester to the University of New Hampshire Law School, where I was going to give a speech. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something in the woods, and I was right. It was the great leafy bunny of New Hampshire, and I was very fortunate to be able to interview and paint this wonderful, wonderful bunny. Let me tell you a little bit about the great leafy bunnies of New Hampshire. They live in the kindliest spirit of their very distant cousin, Bigfoot. While Bigfoot is suspected of many bad things, the leafy bunnies are only slightly annoying to farmers who forget to set aside some hay and apples, and the occasional carrot for their friends. Because they range between 3 and 5 feet tall, the leafy bunnies provide excellent protection for farmers. They protect them from marauders, including predatory birds and small children who love to find apples and other things in orchards. The bunnies, you should know, the bunnies eat neither birds nor children. This is part of a Q&A that I was able to do with the great leafy bunny. I asked, "Inquiring minds want to know where you and your families have been all these years." He said, "For the past 80 years, my family has split its time between the woods of New Hampshire and the streets of New Orleans. We protect New Hampshire's woods and fields in the late spring, summer, and fall, and then go south for the winter." "How have you and your family escaped the notice of intensely curious humans?" He replied, "Outsiders come to New Hampshire for 3 things. They come to see leaves, and our fall coloring is complete camouflage. To ski, well, by the winter, we're gone. And even if we stayed, the skiers who look in the woods instead of looking at the trails are dangerously crazy. And 3, they come to eat. Who looks at the woods when his plate is loaded with pancakes and local maple syrup?" New Hampshire natives, he added that New Hampshire natives are very private people. They would be as unlikely to invade our privacy as we would to invade theirs. Our state motto, "Live free or die," translates easily into "mind your own business." "What do you do in New Orleans?" I asked. "We enjoy New Orleans' excellent winter weather and exuberant street life. We need no camouflage for parades, street fairs, and farmers' markets. Who's going to notice tall bunnies in New Orleans?" We also hang out with other small friends who either live here full-time or who visit New Orleans, including Sam the snowy owl, who came to Mardi Gras and never came back, and Celebration Rhea, who is a beautiful tall bird with an excellent drink. The dancing lobsters were missing from the 12 days of Christmas. Think about the 12 days of Christmas. I'm going to tell you how it is that the 12 days of Christmas does not have any lobsters in it. The origins of the 12 days of Christmas is very murky. That song's origins, very, very murky. Bits of its history are included in a printed game from 1780. And there is textual evidence that leads to convoluted controversies about multiple French and English versions. The lobster's portrait that you see here and a correspondence file were found among the papers of Emily Brown, who introduced the song to the United States in 1910, and it only adds fuel to the controversy surrounding the song's history. Miss Brown's connection to what probably was then called Milwaukee Downer College in Milwaukee is obscure, but institutional changes led it to be folded into Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin. Many schools folded into other schools, very complicated, gives me a headache. In any event, the lobster's file, including the portrait and other documents, was stuck among files of sheet music in a dusty crate that once belonged to Milwaukee Downer College. The file includes lengthy correspondence between the Ladies Dancing Collective and Calling Birds United, and it demonstrates that the two groups conspired to keep their places in the song and to kick the lobsters to the curb. The crate, as I've said, was found by a music librarian who purchased it when other library holdings were deaccessioned in 1964. Deaccession is a wonderful word librarians use. It means get rid of stuff. When Milwaukee Downer, the college, was folded into Lawrence University, the building and grounds were sold to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. The question, unanswered by historians, is what else was lost? When I was a small child, I really wanted a pet dinosaur. I would have had a pet dragon, that would have been okay, but I really wanted a backyard stegosaurus. It couldn't happen. My parents' backyard was not very big, and it was not possible at that time to have a pet dragon or dinosaur. I'm lucky now I have 3 friends who are dragons, and let me tell you about them. Darren Dragon is this is Darren Dragon. He is part of the friendly dragon family that's more related in spirit to dogs than to terrifying monsters or dinosaurs. He is glad to be the living embodiment of every child's fantasy, a pet dragon. And he is very sad that his actual size, he is 32 feet long after all, makes him utterly unsuited for apartments or suburban houses or even McMansions. He could live out on a ranch in the desert, but he really prefers civilization. Darren is a traveler and philanthropist. He divides his time between an abandoned Scottish castle and his estate on Long Island in New York. Because he is fully capable of flying on his own, he has never been patted down by the TSA. His particular philanthropic passion is preservation of very old castles, and he works with historic preservation societies in Ireland, Transylvania, Serbia, and Armenia. Daryl Dragon is a tiny and distant cousin of the 32-foot Darren Dragon. Happily for Daryl, he is part of the pocket-sized dragon family, which, again, so sad, has been overlooked by scholars for hundreds of years. His size, among dragons, size is relative. So a pocket-sized dragon could be anywhere between 3 and 10 feet long. The pocket-sized dragons are known for infinite patience in their ability to sit still for decades. They are often mistaken for gargoyles on old buildings. Sadly, they've been tarred by the brush of evil from dragon legends and movies, and they are eager to repair their reputation. They have a strong desire to be useful, and they engage in innovative scientific collaborations. One group is working very hard with electrical engineers to harness their hot breath for breath-to-energy projects. They hope to have worked out the technical issues by 2018 and to find venture capital funding. Others are working with chemists to reverse engineer their hot breath into cool tools for fighting fires. The Grand Green Dragon is one of my favorite friends. I don't see him very often, but when I do, it's lots of fun. I finally captured him in watercolor. I got him to sit for a portrait. He's very, very shy. He has lived for centuries near Mount Everest. He ignores the political boundaries and rambles across the mountains in the disputed borders of China, Tibet, and Nepal. He watches out for climbers, taking care to prevent avalanches that might injure human visitors to his part of the world. In addition to taking epic long walks, he loves skydiving through lightning storms. That would scare me to death. Climbers who pay close attention may see evidence of his dramatic fire dragon breath, which resembles an exquisitely beautiful combination of lightning and the aurora borealis. The humans who have observed it agree that it is among the most beautiful things to be seen outdoors. Now, about dragons, there's not a lot of sound academic research that's been done on dragons, but one excellent book is called Dragons: A Natural History by Dr. Carl Schuker. He shares his research on dragons and dragon lore from the ancient history of every continent. It's a wonderful book. You should go and find it. But as wonderful as that book is, Dr. Schuker overlooked the friendly dragons, which include the Grand Green Dragon, Daryl, and Darren Dragon. During the next few years, the Small Friends Research Institute hopes to fill this gap with both field work and research in ancient libraries. Red-billed bluebird. The red-billed bluebirds are a species of bird that has evolved into being an office pet. And there's very much concern that because we would go to a paperless office, that this species would become extinct, obsolete, no use. However, they've been talking about the paperless office since I was 4 years old, and it hasn't happened yet, and I have not the slightest belief that it will happen in my lifetime or anybody else's lifetime. Veronica is very, very good. One of her skills as an office pet is to find the paper clips and the pen tops that fall between the monitors and fall under desks and so forth. There's the of course fear that without, as everybody does everything on a computer, that you won't have pen tops anymore and you won't need paper clips. But the red-billed bluebird, the species, and Veronica in particularly, have developed brand new skills. Veronica is a regular winner of speed texting contests, leaving even the most dexterous teenagers in the dust. She has a growing list of corporate clients for whom she coaches senior management on texting skills and cross-generational culture. Collaboration, she's a great collaborator. Because of their congeniality, their size, and their flexibility, Veronica and the small friend Bessie the bead-bellied blockfeather are developing a new industrial espionage enterprises. Their services will include flying through windows and ventilation shafts, hiding or retrieving microchips or microphones, and departing without leaving footprints. They both have very high security clearances. Bessie the bead-bellied blockfeather was once an undistinguished gray bird, just a little tiny gray bird, very sad looking. She was an orphan. Her singing voice never really developed, and her flockmates departed for parts unknown. She made her way to a small cabin in the North Woods, which is owned by a committed crafter, a woman named Karen, whose toolkit and workbench are the envy of her pals, many of whom she met on Etsy, and many of whom she knows from Zazzle.com. The always busy Karen kept to herself, quietly creating work that is beloved by small children and by adults who wish they were still small children. When Bessie flew into the cabin window, she landed in a pot of orange dye. She shook herself dry, as birds do, and the drippings and the droppings and whatever they were landed on a silk scarf, making it a beautiful abstract pattern and the beginning of a great partnership and friendship. Bessie and Karen collaborate on a line of silk scarves, which incorporates Bessie's dye shakes, which she calls them now, and ceramic tiles, which capture her dance tracks. She is a champion in the cha-cha-cha and an innovator in hip-hop. Bessie loves color. The more that she explored color, the more she wanted for herself. She learned to dance very slowly toward a low-temperature glue gun and then roll in her favorite beads. She changes the color and shape of her block feathers with the gel products. But Bessie has another life. Bessie's career as an undercover avienne may be the subject of a major motion picture in 2018. If her story can be told without unraveling complex national security infrastructures and revealing national security secrets, production will begin. If not, she and Veronica Red-billed Bluebird will continue their industrial espionage efforts. Bessie also collaborates with Nettie Needlepoint Fish on a series of needlework and ceramic projects. Jerry the Jade Elephant is one of my favorite small friends. Jerry is a 6-inch jade elephant who came to this country in a very large crate that was filled with a lot of jade objects of varying sizes. When it came to the museum, the curators emptied the crate. Curators are people who take care of objects in museums. They emptied the crate, except for Jerry, and put the whole crate into storage in the basement. Jerry, very patient, he's an elephant after all, waited a while and then decided that no one was coming back for him and he wasn't going to stay in the basement in a crate. So he climbed out of the crate and made his way to the elevator, got on the elevator, got to the lobby floor, and walked out of the museum. Now, nobody noticed him because all of the people in the museum were either looking at objects or paintings or they were texting. And so they didn't see the 6-inch jade elephant. He did stop at the snack bar and got a little bit of cotton candy for energy. But he found the front door of the museum, walked out, found the traffic light at the corner and obeying the traffic signals, walked across the street to the park across the street. It's a little wooded park. Lots and lots of museums have wooded parks across the street. So Jerry walked into this little wooded park and started to make friends. There were small friends just his size. There were rabbits and chipmunks and tiny squirrels, and he made friends with them. They laughed a little bit at his voice, and then they grew to love his trumpety sound, his little tiny tinny trumpety sound, because it scared away their predators. He did not make friends with owls, and he did not make friends with eagles, who often came to this park to snack on his friends. So Jerry the Jade Elephant is now living very comfortably in a bunny den with bunnies. He's living with the bunnies and having a lovely time. To quote one of my favorite lines from Star Wars, there is another.